All right, run the North. Will and Jason, week 16. Another L in the L column for the Bears. Vikings get a little intense W over the Seahawks, but let's get into the Bears first. Don't have too much to say. It's Bears football, same Bears football we've seen all 2024 now. Although I will say, Caleb looked pretty good, which we've been able to say for like most of these games. I thought Caleb, he made some good throws in like the second half. I don't know why it always comes in the second half. Seems like first half he's not allowed to throw past the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I don't know. Second half, do you think his second half production is a product of the Bears are just always behind, so he gets easy chunk plays because they're playing soft coverage, or do you think he just figures something out and turns it on?
Yeah, it's kind of twofold. Brutal game. They played the Lions, and that was at home this time. Definitely, just like we talked about the Vikings game last week, it's like definitely not the same team that played the Vikings or played the Lions earlier in the season. I mean, this was 34-17 blowout. Caleb looked good, not only because he threw for 334 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he was also the team's leading rusher with 34 yards. So,
oh wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Effing A. So to answer your other question about first half, second half, no idea why the first half. If I had to put my guess on it, because now as we get shittier and worse and later in the season, meaning less and less and less, my eye for detail and attention is I'm becoming.
They're giving you less to look for.
Right. But with most teams, starting strong or starting fast, a lot of those either way have to do with your offensive line play, which we know we've been talking about all season blows ass. Because you can't establish anything. It's more about a get lucky thing. You're talking about not being able to throw the ball across the line of scrimmage. You can see the one positive I'll give them is the intentionality of getting DJ Moore the ball. Unfortunately, the only way to do that is handing it off behind the line or a quick screen or a jet or a bubble. So he'll have 5-6 touches by halftime for 35 yards. It's like, well, what the fuck are we doing?
Well, that's a good point, because it did seem like most of Caleb's longer passing completions were to Odunze or Keenan Allen. Why does it seem like, DJ isn't getting in the mix as much down the field? It's not because he's a bad route runner, right? I mean, he's a good route runner.
Not at all. And he does really well with crossers and in breaking routes too. He is designed for the yak. He's not your post up because he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's a running back more than he is like your Brandon Marshall, just post up and, that type of thing. So his routes are going to be more of continuing motion as opposed to coming back or fighting for position.
Sure.
Anyway, you saw Keenan Allen had his first game over 100 yards. He had 2 long catches there. DJ Moore had 2. I think he had a 15-yarder and a 20-yarder in breaking across the middle. Solid catches, nothing where there's real yak opportunity. So Keenan Allen had 9 for 141 at a touch. Rome Odunze had 4 for 77. He had such an up and down game because he had a sick 4th down. He had a fumble on a handoff, and then he had a fumble. He took a nice little rocket screen, took it, got up 15 yards, and he's going down. He got punched out. So 2 fumbles, 77 yards. Like, it was just up and down. So you could see the potential there.
Mm-hmm.
But and then absolutely nothing out of DeAndre Swift, nothing out of the run game, nothing out of the offensive line. We had 2 more offensive linemen go down. Our left tackle got carted out.
Oh, God, I missed that. Jeez. So, I mean, you're just starting your whole practice squad at this point.
100%. And so anybody that's saying Caleb Williams is the problem when it comes to the sacks, most of the time that's not true. And you're basically, when you say that, you're telling on yourself that either aren't watching the games or you truly have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's not even like an insult or a retort. It's just, it's so obvious at this point. And then the last point is the Bears defense is brutal. I didn't think they can get more passive. Getting rid of Eberflus with the soft zones. Well, it keeps happening. Not to mention, you see Ben Johnson go against the Bears. It was a good game for Johnson. He blew us out, blew the doors off. It was good to see Caleb Williams play well. Maybe there's some synergy there for those who are in the Bears should hire Ben Johnson and open up the checkbook camp.
Mm-hmm.
But they had their way with him. They didn't even have Monty. I mean, Gibbs, I'm playing Gibbs against in fantasy. That was a scary day to just watch him eat all of the touches.
You were going against Gibbs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean, he looked good with the ball in his hands. He looks like he hasn't had to be a workhorse back the entire season. He looks like he's got fresh legs. Absolutely.
Well, and then he's got so much burst and explosion still too. So you can see your point of a lack of touches and mileage. But he had 23 carries. He had 4 catches on 5 targets. His just burst is I don't see another running back with this much burst. Maybe he doesn't have the power of Saquon or Derrick Henry, but man, he explodes.
He's quick.
The second he decides to put his foot down and go, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So can't knock that. You were asking about I forget what they called it, but the
fake fumble,
the fumble fake, whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
So you may or may not have seen by now that was a play that Ben Johnson designed off of a play that happened from Jordan Love last year against the Bears in 2023, where he fumbled, kind of off to the side, play action, and threw a bomb against the Bears for a touchdown last year. And it's exactly what he literally designed it this year. So we're kind of watching it like, whoa, that was kind of weird because you saw Goff trip and you saw Gibbs dive, and then you saw it wide open down the field. What I come to find afterward, like, well, that was weird. And the announcer's like, wait, was that on purpose? Like, everyone's trying to put together on the broadcast too. I come to find out the Bears media caught on that those who were at the game could hear the entire Lions sideline screaming ball, which is what you do on defense when there's a fumble. So they're literally calling out ball. And then I used to play defense in college. Like, the instinct is
you lose your focus.
Right. Fuck whatever you're looking at. You're looking for the ball. You're not looking at your reads. You're not looking at your keys. You forget your man. Ball. Where's it at? It's not on schedule. Go find it. So that's another step. So you got the weird fumble, you got a play action, and then you got the ball call. Well, no wonder there was a 40-yard wide open touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a few questions off of that play in particular, which my main one being, why use it when you're up like 2 scores against the Bears in like I won't call it a meaningless game, but why are you using it up 2 scores against the Bears? Why aren't you saving that for the playoffs? Because now teams are going to know to expect some tomfoolery like that. They're going to be trained. Like, why use it right there?
Fuck you, because I can. I'm not taking my foot off the gas. Those 3 things are all Dan Campbell, right? We saw that when they played a couple weeks ago, Thanksgiving. They had the right tackle take an end around to go throw a touchdown on Thanksgiving. He didn't, throw the touchdown because we sniffed it out, but it's like, that's how much like I really don't respect you as a defense. On top of that, there may be some, maybe there's some look at me. You probably want to hire me because I can do this and these plays work. Type of thing. I don't know if I buy that 100%, but that's definitely a thought that's being floated out there in the ether.
Sure.
Also, it's going to work against the Bears, so put it out there. Because, you burn a play like that. Like, why would you use it? Why would you hold on to that play for a different team where it may or may not work? Because you don't know how sound they are. You haven't played them twice a year, a couple of years in a row. It's worked on this exact thing because they exactly fucked up in the exact same manner. You designed a play to exactly replicate that. It's going to work for an easy touchdown. And you're burning that play for a distraction so that you don't have to keep the real plays you want to do. Like, that one's easy. You just copied another play from another team. There's no new real ingenuity. Okay. It's just that you had the balls to design it and call it off another flub. So you take it off a designed flub play. You know what I mean?
Well, it makes me wonder why we haven't seen more creativity like this in the league. Because it seems like there should be a little bit more of this gamesmanship. Like, the only other play I can think of, I want to say it involved Tom Brady on the Patriots, where do you know what I'm talking about? Where he's acting like there's a miscommunication. He starts walking over to the sideline. Then they like hike it to, I want to say it was like Lawrence Maroney maybe at the time. And then like they throw it to Tom Brady for an easy like 15-yard go route. I think of roughly the detail of the play, but I'm just surprised we don't see some more trickery like that more often. I mean, I feel like that's pretty like untapped in the NFL when most other concepts have been explored from the offensive side of the football. Well, why not try doing a little more hoodwinking of your opponents?
Yeah, that's got to be exactly right. And I feel like the teams that are sound, disciplined, and on a roll can do that, because if you do that and you're the 4-12 shit team, the Bears, and it doesn't work, you're just digging a deeper hole. Yeah.
So
it's Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
Lions football and Bears football in a nutshell right there this season.
100%. And I texted you that earlier in the day, just saying it's like, my head's been telling me they've been good for a couple years now, but my heart never really got
You
never
wanted to
sold.
believe it was just a mirage. It was going to
This can't be
collapse.
right. There's so many, after 30 some years, there's so many proof telling things. It's like, well, no, actually, they were the first drive. I'm like, nope, they're actually that good. Not that I even needed this game to convince me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of like, oh, they've done a lot of things the right way, and it hurts so much to say. And now I'm kind of going back and forth in my own Bears diehard hearts. Like, fuck the Packers. Everybody knows that. There's no
Yep.
ever turning from that. But it was always like, oh, I think I hate the Lions the least because whatever.
How
Well,
could you
now I
hate
think I
them?
hate the Vikings the least, and now that's kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, I hear you. They are starting to get a little. Those Detroit fans are getting a little insufferable. I liked the tweet this week of like, Detroit Lions best season ever record of like 13-2, and then it's like the Vikings fucking around with Sam Darnold as a bridge quarterback, 13-2. That's a funny comparison in my mind, but
Well, 100%.
I'll let them enjoy it as long as if they clean it up. The dirty play is what's making it hard to be a fan, because I did like the Lions for a little bit, but I don't like how dirty their defense plays, especially given that where did I hear this? I think it was it's like Dan Campbell was on the Bountygate Sean Payton Saints back in 2009.
Greg Williams or Greg Olson or something was the defensive coordinator. Yeah, I know who you're talking about exactly, against Favre, right? Your boy.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I hope Dan Campbell didn't like bring that with him to Detroit. Like, that's pretty shitty. But
let me talk to that for a second, because I can't speak either way specifically to that point, but I know when they were playing the Bears last time, so Thanksgiving, it was the weekend after Mahomes did that little shitty go to the sideline, fake like a one bounce and scurry up the sideline. And Caleb's kind of done that, not for big chunks, but just for like 2 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 7 yards. Like nothing that's going to kill you, but just, oh, fuck you. And because the league does nothing for the defense, you got to do those things. So Dan Campbell, to your point, came out and said, defense, if he does this, you fuck him up. And me personally, yeah, that's Caleb Williams. Like, that's our franchise. You got to take care of him. Yeah, blast his ass, because if the league's not going to do anything for you, you need to make a point of that. And the quarterbacks need to be de-incentivized to do that.
Absolutely.
And so I'm 100%. Now, I don't think that's dirty, because you're well within the rules of the game.
And I'm not even talking about
the defense should.
I'm not even talking about the QB stuff. I'm talking about repeated instances of them going at guys' knees. TJ Hawkinson last year, injury sustained against the Lions. And then they did it to another guy, I think, this year. And I forget if it's Brian Branch or I think it's a different guy that people are really
Kirby
upset
Joseph
with.
is the one.
Kirby Joseph, yes.
He's the one that's known.
Yeah. So if they stop injuring people, I would like them a little bit more, but you got to admit they're entertaining football right now.
Well, to the other point too is like Kirby Joseph also has 7 picks, which is tops in the league, I think, or maybe top 3 at least. The other part, now this is just me throwing something out there. I don't know enough because I haven't watched enough Lions games, but we all know, like, between them and like, I think the Niners and the Browns, like those are the 3 most injured teams. So they could also be throwing out just like yahoos that are trying to make a squad.
That's true.
Maybe they're not as talented. Maybe they're a step slow there. They have to do these compromising things, or fuck it. If I'm never going to play again, I'm going to try and light somebody up and get some good tape. Like, I don't know. There you go. And I'm not saying that's even a justification, but I think there's more to it if you like dug into it. So
yeah.
Anyway, the fact that we're talking about like dominant Lions football play is still, I don't want to say unsettling, but it is.
It's a new phenomenon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's about all I have, like, from my content generation for the Bears, because it's just so pathetic. Like, we have Tuesday is Christmas Eve. Wednesday we have 2 games for Christmas Day, and then the Bears play Seattle Thursday night. I think maybe in Seattle, maybe not. I don't know. Who cares? Which is a team that your Vikings just played. So if we want to transition to that game, we can. Any closing thoughts on the Bears game? I'm cool with that too, but that's kind of where I think this is headed.
No, let's go ahead and transition. Vikings Seattle, Vikings Seahawks. Interesting game. A couple of my takeaways. one of my favorite Sam Darnold games. Even though it was frustrating at times, I love the toughness. He was getting beat up. You could tell in that last touchdown throw to Jefferson, he was uncomfortable. Like not as in like he was feeling pressure. Like you could tell his body was hurting. Like his legs, his ankle got rolled up on at least once. He probably got hit like at least 8 times that game. And dude's just been tough. He's gotten rolled up on several times this year, and he plays through it all. I mean, yeah, he came out of the game for. He's come out of the game for one play, I think, twice this year. Because I think Nick Mullins is like 2 for 2 on the year for like 50 yards or something ridiculous. So love seeing the toughness and the competitiveness out of Darnold. I did think at the end of that game, I thought this was going to be that game where things don't fall our way for once. I was like, when the Seahawks got ahead by 4 points, I was like, this is going to be the game where the offense collapses. We're going to not, we're going to get forced to 4th down and we're not going to convert. Something is going to happen. And God dang, they figured it out. Offense pulled through. You kind of hope they. I guess you can't complain about like we had 28 points. What was the final score? 25, 28,
27-24.
27-24. So not bad. I mean, you expect to win a game when your offense puts up 27 points, but definitely felt like there's opportunities left on the table. And then looking at the defense, you brought up soft zones earlier. It really feels like. I don't know if it is Brian Flores' defense getting figured out. I don't know if it's them keeping stuff in their pocket for the playoffs, but man, it seems like we're playing a lot of soft zone. Either that or, yeah, offenses have just figured out how to attack us. Sure. Also, could not get any pressure on Geno Smith. I think we eventually got to him by the end of the game, but it is a bit frustrating to see those, even just the 4-man fronts are just very rarely generating pressure on their own. Like we really do have to bring additional guys to get that pressure. So I think that obviously contributes to it. And maybe the defense is a little gassed. Maybe it's just a lack of talent. But that was tough to watch in the middle of that game. Defense just seemed gassed. Every reception guy was just, they were just finding those open pockets in the defense. And it's kind of tough to watch.
Fair enough, because that's something to the soft zones we've experienced a lot with the Bears, and that's brutal. Noticed a couple of things that I want to get your take on. One, notice that, again, the Vikings shut down the run game. I mean, Walker had 8 attempts for 31 yards. Charbonnet had 1 carry, so I don't know what that was about. But Geno threw for 31 for 43, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. And Jake By had 95 and a touch. Matt Caff had 3 for a touch. Which lends to the conversation you're having about moving the ball. I didn't get a chance to watch the second half. It seemed like it was pretty back and forth, field goal, touchdown. And then it was like, oh my gosh. Tell me what you think of this. PA, again, I didn't get to watch it, but PA was bitching about first half, needs some momentum, establish the run. Second half, he was just, him and his co-host.
Ben Lieber.
Oh, is that Lieber? Okay.
I think so.
So they were just going back and forth about, man, these refs have really turned on us in the second half. Man, the refs are really not giving the same thing. So do you think it was really a lopsided refereed game in favor of the Vikings in the first half and then in the Seahawks in the second? Did it feel that way while you're watching it?
It didn't feel that way while I was watching it. I felt like they had some bad calls and missed calls in both directions. I will say the Vikings did receive some soft calls. We received some non-calls. I saw, you didn't notice this live, but then you start seeing Twitter clips of like the last touchdown pass to Jefferson. It's a left tackle holding. Maybe someone was saying like, oh, the defender used a rip move, and so it always looks like holding when they're doing that. I didn't think it was too egregious. Okay. And then there was one other call, I think. Oh, yeah, there was like the face mask on Byron Murphy, defensive tackle for the Seahawks, got called for a face mask on what would have been a massive sack, which I think was the same drive that led to that second Jefferson touchdown, where, yeah, you can kind of call it either way. Maybe we're calling it a make good from that LA Rams game, where the game ended on a very, very, like, for sure face mask. Byron Murphy
Yes.
kind of just hits it and his fingers slide on it. Um, in my mind, I'd say it's like 60-40 face mask versus non-face mask. I think it's like very slightly more of a face mask than it was not a face mask.
Okay.
I could see why you'd be upset if you were a Detroit Lions fan. Like, you'd be like, oh, I barely, like, you didn't even grab it. But I noticed some things not getting called on the Lions either. I guess there was maybe one pass interference on Byron Murphy that wasn't called. I didn't think the ball was really catchable, but like, again, that was one of those like really close to 50-50 calls. It's hard to say one way or the other. I would say if I do think the Vikings benefited more. If I had to say one side benefited more, I'd say the Vikings benefited a little bit more. But like, I felt like it was just kind of a weird, poorly refereed game on both sides.
Okay, so that's fair. And you're throwing out a bunch of names that I was expecting to go through. So I watched. It looked like Cashman had a pretty good first half, and then that's all I hear: Cashman and Murphy, the whole second half from PA on the call. And then I forgot to clip it and send it to you, but there was something that I saw on Twitter where games with Cashman versus games without. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
8 with and 3 or 4 without. I mean, significantly better, like 3x better when he's on the field. Now, his stat lines aren't the sexiest because he's not getting a ton of sacks or picks,
Mm-hmm.
but 9 tackles, 3 assists, that's 12 tackles and a pass deflection. Murphy with 7 tackles, 3 assists, that's 10 with another pass deflection. Um, it seems like the solid defense you would need, and the guy that is, it's understated because it's so sexy to get these loops and pressures and then
Mm-hmm.
these like sneak outs to get the spy picks and stuff. But this guy's your cleanup guy. And it seems like that's what Pacer's doing before he got hurt. But this guy like really is the most unsung because we're talking about Grenard. We're talking about Van Ginkel. I
Mm-hmm.
love Metellus for most of the part, but now he's had to play 4 different positions. So he's basically just the glue for the rest of that defense.
Yep.
We want to see more out of Turner. We're waiting for Gilmore to get healthy. Harrison Smith hurt, and that's why we had McCain in there, and he didn't have a great game. But Cashman's always just like, oh, and another tackle by Cashman. Let's talk about somebody else. Oh, another one by Cashman. Oh, let's talk about your guy Richmond. Oh, it was okay. Well, what does that really mean? Do you think, as the whole of your defense, what Cashman's bringing, opposed to any other type of Mike linebacker?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you said it right there. His stats aren't sexy, but obviously we do better when he's on the field. I think that just speaks to the fact that he's got that green dot on his helmet. I think he's a good general. I think it probably speaks to like the intangibles where he knows how to be in the right place at the right time. He's probably doing stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet where he's interrupting pass lanes. Those are things that don't show up where he's making it hard for the QB to make plays. Granted, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of that going on. It seems like Geno Smith was getting whatever he wanted that game, pretty much after the first quarter. But yeah, I mean, he's one other thing that was talked about in the pregame show that I was listening to on the radio, which I think kind of gets taken for granted, is how good of a tackling team the Vikings have been. I mean, we've been very sure tacklers this year. Now that I think about it, I can only think of there being maybe one missed tackle like on the entire season that I can recall. Even guys like Cam Bynum, who I wouldn't, just by looking at him, he's just kind of like, I don't know. He's a little bit on the smaller side. He is not. I don't think he's ever missed a tackle. Maybe one. But yeah, I think again an unspoken thing that's easy to take for granted that this defense is really good at, and Blake Cashman's a great example, is being a sure tackle. Actually, now that I say that, Cashman totally did miss a tackle on JSN in this game.
Okay.
He also dropped an interception that like hit him right in the chest, which is unfortunate. But again, speaks to the fact that like Geno Smith didn't even see this guy here, or like did not expect him to drop into this pass lane. So
Sure.
He doesn't have a sexy stat sheet because he does a lot of stuff that doesn't show up on stat sheets. Would be my take to that.
Doesn't have a sex. Yeah. Okay. So the more of the intangible part of the game, I'm 100% with that. So the other question I had, just like in general about the aura of this game, is we're in week 16, so we got 16, 17, 18. That's all the games we have left. Technically, y'all are still, after the results of the day, Detroit crushed Chicago, so they maintained their 2 loss record. Sorry, I'm
Mm-hmm.
bouncing between the NFC and the wild card thing here. Philly 12-3 now because Washington beat them. So what I'm ultimately leading to is the playoff implications of how the day went. So now you guys have clinched a playoff spot. You're going to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just where right now you're sitting at the 5 seed, which means you're not the division, but you're the first wild card. Green Bay's sitting at number 2 before they play tonight against the Saints, and then Washington's sitting at 3 with Tampa Bay and Seattle, both 8-7. Kind of a game out from, or half a game or a full game out from their division or a wild card. But if they don't get the division, they're probably not getting in.
Mm-hmm.
All that to say, I mean, you have a juiced up win or go home, essentially a win or go home feel for Seattle, which is what the Bears are walking into for them. Probably get pounded next week. Watching the game, did it feel more like Seattle had the energy of the game being a playoff game, or was it more of a feel that the Vikings needed to go out there and do their thing and try not to like play up or down and just play their game? Like, did it feel playoffs? I know it was a lot of back and forth, but not seeing the second half.
It felt like playoffs. Okay. It felt like a playoff game. It felt like Seattle knew how much was at stake. If you just think about, I don't know what these numbers are, but if you think about like their percent chance of making the playoff with a win versus a loss, like it felt like they knew there was a lot of weight there, and I'm sure there was a lot of weight there. Like they probably lost a % chance by losing that game against the Vikings. I mean, just the ending came right down to the wire. So yeah, I mean, I think the Seahawks were fighting like hell. I think Geno's probably not 100%. Since he got
the knee.
Yeah, he got that knee rolled up on last week. But I think all teams are, and at this time of the season, it's like who can grit their teeth and fight through it. And Vikings honestly one lucky bounce away. It did feel like a win from 2 seasons ago, where one of those 1-score games, which I know they threw that stat up at the end of the game, that it was like 31st 1-win games since like 2022, which is the first in the NFL for most games won by 1 score or less for O'Connell. Felt like one of those games where that last touchdown to Jefferson, if that doesn't happen, we probably don't win. Like,
fair.
Do we end up getting in the end zone there? Way less likely. So, yeah, we won in the margins. It was close. I think Seattle gave it all they had. I still want the Bears to beat them next week. I still feel like the Bears are going to get a win here before the end of the season. They got to get one for Caleb's pride. I'm sticking by that.
I appreciate that, but that shit ain't happening. So, all right, I'm going to try and take you out of the Vikings specific question, and I'm going to ask you, Coach Johnson. You are the head coach of a football team that's now sitting 13-2. The other team in your division is same record. You played them last week of the year. And basically it means either you get a first round bye or you have to travel for an away game for your first week of the playoffs. And that's a division game. Obviously it sounds very much like Minnesota and Detroit. And I'm going to hearken to your question about the fake fumble touchdown they threw against the Bears. The question is along the lines of, what is your coaching philosophy in this scenario? You have a first round bye or a 5th seed on the line. You asked me about why would you burn this play? Why would you use this play? Why would you hold plays? Josh Allen was on the record saying we're holding plays for the playoffs. What's more important, hold the play for the playoffs or get the seeding? To you, coach, right now, you're in weeks. Well, I guess you're going into week 17, still having to play that team. Do you want to say, fuck them? Do you want the division and win it and get it right now? We'll worry about it when we get there. Do you know your team well enough? Do you need to worry about health first? Like, what are the things that you're thinking about? And then ultimately driving your in-season, regular season decision, knowing you're in the playoffs regardless, but how you want to do travel, how you want to play for all that stuff. What's your thought?
I think if it's week 18, Vikings, Lions, which it will be, and the winner gets the first seed, you throw the kitchen sink at them. Absolutely. Okay. You don't. First of all, you're not going to win if you hold anything back from the Lions. No team wants to lose, and if you want to win, especially with how much is on the line there, getting that first round bye, then you get a whole nother week to prepare, plan, come up with other tricky shit. If we're talking about whether or not we're using all the plays or not, I think you got to use it because that's essentially a playoff game, right? You win that, that's your wild card game right there that you're no longer having to play. So that is a playoff game. So it's like, why are we we're splitting hairs here? And then not only that, is it essentially a playoff game, but you're giving your team an extra week to recover for the playoffs. You're getting an extra week to plan for the playoffs. So I think week 18, if you're the Vikings, you're not holding anything back if you stand to gain something from beating the Lions. Now, because I forget how this goes, and I don't remember them talking about this on the broadcast, but I think if the Lions win their next game, oh no, yeah, because our records are tied, so it is going to be if both teams win next week, then it will be whoever wins that next game will have a 1-game lead. So it is going to be whoever wins that game.
Don't forget, you guys have if you guys have the same record, they beat you in week 7 by 2 points, 31-29 in Minnesota. So that'll be a difference maker there.
Yeah, but assuming both teams win next week, it will come down to week 18 then, because then someone will just have more wins, right? Don't the Lions have 2 losses? Lions and Vikings both have 2 losses right now.
I see what you're saying. That's correct, right?
So yeah, assuming nothing changes between now and week 18, yeah, you're the Vikings, you got to throw the kitchen sink. Not only that, but to knock, the Lions are such a confident, cocky team. You need to knock them down to earth. You need to take the wind out of their sails a little bit.
They play Detroit plays at San Francisco on Monday night, Monday the 30th of December, whereas you guys play next week. You play Green Bay 3:30 on Sunday.
It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, and then like I said, the Bears have this.
Okay. How about this then? What if both the Vikings and the Lions lose next week? That means all 3 members of the NFC North are going to be at 13-3, I believe.
No, it doesn't. No, because the Packers are 10-4, so they'll be 11.
I thought they were at 10.
But that still puts Green Bay in they're still going to be they'll be the 6th seed for sure. But then what that does then, it makes week 18 like who's going to get the 5 or the 6 seed. So then it's like at that point, hang on one second. Now we're getting real interesting. So the 5 or the 6 seed, it's like, okay, who are you end up playing then? Do you need to go to Philly? Do you need to go to whoever wins our North Division? Or are you going to go play the Rams?
Mm-hmm.
Like of those, like please, I would rather get the higher seed, the 5 seed, so I can go play the Rams as I go playing Detroit or Philly, depending on because Philly's 12-3, Rams. You guys are both in the North. They're both 13-2. So like, I don't want to fucking play Philly.
Yeah, me neither.
If I can choose to play the Rams, like what are we talking about?
Although I think Philly, Minnesota would be a really interesting matchup because Minnesota's got the number 1 run defense and Philly's got the number 1 run offense. That would be a really interesting game to watch. Now that you've said that, I wouldn't mind that.
Concussion too.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
And then Philly, they end out against the Giants, so they basically a get right week. So, the one that's going to be the most interesting about week 18, I mean, other than your guys' matchup with Detroit, is going to be Washington-Dallas, because Dallas could just be a party spoiler. As Washington, they got 10 wins. They'll probably make the playoffs, but it's like, is that going to be a 6 or a 7? And who's traveling where, making a big deal?
Yeah, that's a good point. And, division rival, why wouldn't you spoil the party?
No kidding. Fuck them. Absolutely.
Yeah. So lots of interesting scenarios. I'm still pulling for my Vikes to take that 1 seed. That would be sweet.
Hell yeah. All right. What's next? Do you want to talk about?
I'll say
fantasy. Do you want to talk about your 3 words? You want to talk about?
I'll do a hot take and I'll do 3 words. I guess I'll start with 3 words. It ain't pretty. The win wasn't pretty, but it's a win. Enough said. I'm more interested in this hot take, which is more and more I'm starting to think that it makes more sense, and I think this opinion is coming on more and more week after week. Is you try and get Darnold back next year if you're the Vikings, or you try to get him on like a team friendly deal, and I think Darnold might just be the kind of guy that would sign a team friendly deal just based on his relationship with KOC. You don't think so? You think he's going for the money? I don't know. KOC believed in him when no one else.
Used and abused by the Jets, by the Panthers. He took the team-friendly deal to be the backup in San Fran last year. Now not only gotten the opportunity, but he's proven it. I would, if I was his agent, I would drop him if he didn't take the money he's
Oh,
owed.
fair. Oh,
You know what I'm saying? Like it's
well,
just
his
it's all
agent isn't
nice.
getting on the field, you know. I can see it. I can see it happening.
Wishful thinking. I hear you. We'll talk about it in January.
Yeah, I just think in his first year in the system, he's looked good. He's demonstrated toughness. He seems to have an affinity for KOC. You know, maybe he seems like a simple, humble guy where he's like, maybe he just doesn't want all the money in the world. He wants to go somewhere where he's valued and, you know, maybe he just has that feeling of gratitude and maybe a feeling of debt to the Vikings organization and KOC for believing in him. And even when things were a little rocky at times, I don't know. I would be excited to see a year 2 Darnold. I think that would be pretty exciting now that, I think going into the season, no one took him seriously. Like, even his own team were kind of like, oh, are we doing this? Like, JJ McCarthy goes down. Everyone's like, oh, like, so Darnold's the plan? Like, Darnold's the plan? But I think after, the year he's put together, it would be interesting to see what next year looks like with different expectations for him, particularly from his own team.
All right, so I'm really glad you said that because right now I've got my GM hat on and I'm not trying to pop a balloon here. Like I'm glad you're having a good season. I want it to keep going. I like JJ, but I also love my guy from USC, Sam Darnold. I don't think you keep him. You have to sign him. You have to keep him. But if I'm just thinking about a couple of those things, the question I was originally going to ask you, which then led into these things, and you said expectations for Sam Darnold next year. So not only is he a year in contract or not, so you have one part where you can go, well, now we can kind of do the Packer thing and just let JJ cook and percolate until we actually need him and let him become a pro. I love that shit, absolutely. But more likely than not, Flores is getting some head coaching interviews and might leave. If he leaves, your defense is not going to maintain because everybody and their mother's talking, not only statistically, but just out of production in game, they are outperforming their talent, which means this is scheme over team, which is exactly what you want out of coaching. But if he goes, maybe you're not as close to these games, and that puts more pressure and expectation for Sam to carry and the offense carry the team. Kind of like we talked about the whole, first 10 weeks, 11 weeks, whatever the number was of this season. Well, we're just waiting for the offense to carry the defense once in a while. And now they're starting to show it a little bit. But it takes 3/4 of the season, and now we're here. Can he keep the momentum? I hope he does because that's sick.
And that's fair.
I just threw out 4 different things that could all be changing, but more over the comment about Flores leaving and the defense changing. Different coaching, maybe different scheme, not getting enough out of your defense. The expectations of Darnold not only change from the team chemistry build change, but also I paid you a fuck ton of money, bro, and we got a guy in the wings. Like Kirk Cousins, they just signed him to a fuck ton of money. But they got the kid that just took over right now. I was like, not saying that's what's going to happen here, but like you can see it go to shit quick, and that money's going to hamstring the team.
Yeah. And that hot take was from the heart, and now my head is taking over. And I'm thinking back over how many.
Sorry.
Well, no, but how many episodes did we have here where I was like, the defense won us this game? Like,
well,
Sam Darnold did okay, but the defense is what was winning us games. So that's a fair point. And yeah, and if we can win games, if our defense can win us games with Sam Darnold at the helm and not a lot of talent on defense. Next year, when we have Kirk Cousins all the way off the books, we're going to have a ton of cap space, rookie quarterback. Imagine what our defense is going to look like at that point.
Well, yeah, and if nothing, too, I mean, go with your heart. If that's what you want, I mean, fucking sing it, dude, because you actually have a leg to stand on. At least I gave you 4 or 5 talking points to take at the local bar and shoot the shit all, Christmas weekend.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's talk fantasy. Sounds like you've had a good run here after a rocky start, right? I mean, the beginning of the year wasn't really great for you.
No, not awesome.
But it seems like you figured it out.
Yeah, somehow I went all the way up to 1, but then back down to the 4 seed. So the 4 seed and the 6 seed are playing the championship. I am the 4 seed. That feels really good. The other league, I'm the 7 seed, and I put up 9 million points today, so it means nothing. And then in the league I am with my buddies down the street, I put up 171 points, and it means nothing because I'm in the consolation thing. So 2 season's out the window and just, yeah, you could have nuked them last week and it would have been sweet, but no.
Yeah.
But I guess this is kind of like, yeah, no shit, bud. But the matchup I have for next week is I'm pretty nervous. Like, it's a really good roster.
Who do they
And
have?
well, okay, so I'm looking at mine right now. I scored 146 points. They scored 175, and they're the 6th seed. That's a
Oh.
lot of points, but a lot of guys go off. Now they're unassuming they could have big days, but it's a lot of boomer bust. So Jaden Daniels went for 36. Zay Flowers went for 15. Justin Jefferson went for 36. Kyron Williams went for 19, almost 20. James Cook went for 27. Kittle went for 18. Juwan Jennings went for 9. Jonnu Smith went for 12. On his bench, he had the running back for the Giants, Tracy. On his bench, he had to go for 16. Odunze went for 10. Russ went for 17. Samuel went for 25. Tajay Spears went for 21. So his entire roster, he could have fucking played anybody and still whacked.
Well, hey, listen, at least he did it that round. I mean, I feel like the odds of that repeating are pretty low.
Well, right, because the weekend before that, he went for 114, 60 points less with 90% of the same starters. To just show like they can do it. They can show up. My team's been a little bit more, I've been averaging about 120 a week, 115 to 130. Well, he had a 98 and then he had a 160 or 140, whatever I just said. Like it was 175. So I'm glad he took down the 1 seed. This 1 seed, like he drafts guys. So again, it's an auction league. He always drafts Josh Allen. And then he gets a bunch of guys that are just 13, 13, 13, 13, 13, 14 for their projections. Mm-hmm. And, he's got 17, 17, 13, 15, 13, 12, and then a 9. This guy just only drafts Alabama players, and he only drafts guys that are, older, Nick Chubb, Murray Cooper, Josh Jacobs. It's like, what are we doing here, guy? And then he goes Josh Allen and Mark Andrews 4 years in a row. Like those are the same 5 guys on his roster, no matter what. And it's like, oh, worst projections, never performs, always number 1 seed. Like, how did you get that many points? Well, he didn't. He just got, he did technically, but he also has the most points against, but somehow has the best record in the league. Crazy, wow. Right? Like that doesn't work for any other team. But so all that to say, fuck you, Keegan. I'm glad you lost. And then my little brother lost too this week, which is a really good feeling because fuck him. And if one of us is going to win, it better be me. It's just not what I say all year, as long as one of us wins. But now that he lost, then I got to be the one to carry it.
There you go.
And now I'm going against my my rival from college. So we've been going back and forth. We're 2 Chicago kids stuck up here in Minnesota, and we're going to show you guys we know football, I think.
At least we're going to try. Best of luck. Yeah, it sounds like a spicy league.
Thank you. And I'm glad it's not like the girlfriend league or the family league or anything like that. It's like, it's the boys. So it's like,
right. That's the one you want to win.
Either way.
Yeah.
And regardless, I'm going to get second place at least. So that pays for my entire fantasy football habit for this year. So I feel pretty good.
There you go.
How about you? What are you looking at here?
Yeah. So let's see. 3 leagues. Work league, I was eliminated long ago. I don't even know what's going on over there. And funny, it's just kind of funny how fantasy goes. So I was in the playoffs. Playoffs started in my main league last week. Playoffs started in my family league this week. Last week, I had Saquon Barkley going up against Josh Allen. Went exactly the way you think. Saquon puts up his second worst game of the season. Josh Allen drops like a 45 bomb or something like that. I get beat. My entire team just shits the bed. I put up like 98 points. Guy drops like 140 on me. Was not particularly close mostly because of Josh Allen. This week, family league, I have Saquon Barkley going up against Josh Allen. This week, Saquon Barkley goes nuclear. Josh Allen takes a big old dump. And I knock off the number 1 seed in the family league, which was my uncle. In the league I cared the least about this year is the last one standing.
You got to make Christmas interesting, right? If it's your uncle.
Yeah, and I am going over there on Christmas Day, so hopefully he doesn't harbor any hard feelings. But yeah, funny how fantasy works like that. And then I got so my one remaining league, I got Saquon, I got Jahmyr Gibbs, which is a great time for Jahmyr Gibbs. Jared Goff, wide receivers are a little rough because this is a 16-person league, but I got Malik Neighbors and Devonta Smith.
Nice.
Trying to think who I'm flexing. I think I managed to get the 49ers fourth string running back. I don't even remember what his name. I didn't start him.
It's either Taylor or
yeah.
Okay.
Taylor. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. Sal knocked out my other uncle. She was the 7th seed. I was the 8th seed, and we knocked off 1 and 2, both uncles.
Damn.
Yeah. We're the back-to-back league champions, so we're coming for that trophy again this year. 50% chance it stays in the house. Which I don't even think I showed you the trophy when you were over here. I didn't show you the fantasy football.
Because you're like, Sal just wants to get it.
You know what? Oh, you know what? Here, I got it right here. Because I moved it up to the office.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're gonna like this bad boy.
Oh my god.
It's a big fella.
Are those checker helmets? I used to have a checkerboard that had those same helmets on there.
Maybe. I don't know. They represent all the family's locations. Okay. So I got like a cousin in Baltimore. We got a couple in Texas, couple around Boston.
So
Chicago.
how did we get the turtles on there?
I don't like physically. How are they attached? That's Bill Murray. Yes, Saint Bill Murray.
Yeah, on your the penance candle.
Yes, correct. The Ninja Turtles are hot glued onto there. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yo, I can't believe Sally doesn't want this thing in the house. I mean, it's a treasure.
I mean, it goes so well with her extravagant Christmas decor.
Exactly, right? You get your Christmas decorations, I get my fantasy football trophy.
No, you don't. Still warming into the whole married thing, huh, bud?
Maybe a little bit.
Right? Same here.
We'll see. Well, 50 chance it stays here, so we'll see what happens.
And it's crazy to me, like how what's the question I'm trying to say? Been playing fantasy football for the better part of 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Really, this year's the first time the conundrum that you and Sally put together that you're trying to take buys to preserve playoffs and fuck somebody else out of the playoffs. Like, I've been sending you clips I'm seeing all over social media, like this last week or two, to make that a reality, and guys' reactions all over the place.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. But I'm sort of shocked that I have not seen that become more of a prevalent thing the last 5 years.
I've never been in an opportunity to do that. I've never seen that happen. Granted, it's just like, you know, if you're in a league with your boys, I don't know that I'd necessarily conspire with one of my boys. I'd be like, no, screw you. Like, win or go home. But it's just the fact that it's my wife. I was like, I mean, this just makes too much sense for us right now.
Oh, it's so much fun.
But yeah, it's funny that a couple examples cropped up online, and people really not being a fan of it.
Oh, I would, unless it's you. No, I'd fuck that guy. 100,000 million% every time, all the time.
Yeah, I'm trying to like put myself in the shoes of someone where I was in a league and someone else was doing that. I don't know. Like, I feel like I wouldn't feel that. Like, I'd be annoyed. I'm like, well, that's fucking stupid that that's happening. But at the same time, I'm like, how? I mean, you can't stop people from just not starting. Because here's the thing. It might bite them in the ass if you have like a points. If you're in a league where it's like points for is the tiebreaker. It's like you are taking a hit. That's the risk you're taking. Is you're just gonna
not at 100 points that week.
Yeah, that's a risk. You know, if you end up tying someone, you know that happens. But
like, if you do it so somebody else could win, that's insane.
Right.
But like, to do it so you both.
It's a self-preservation. Like, I want to get to the playoffs. This is my best chance to get into the playoffs. You should be allowed
to do it, in my opinion, but also fuck you. But the fuck you means nothing other than an emotional thing. Like, you should technically be allowed to roster your team how you choose.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't trying to. Yeah, I mean, there was no money in the league anyway, so didn't end up mattering. And we set our rosters back when once we got a reaction out of people. But I'm surprised people are as up in arms about it as possible. But I'm glad there were examples to get some larger public opinion.
So many opportunities come up. I mean, it is the internet, so you never know what you're going to find. But that's crazy. It's like, I've done half a dozen at least where there's 3 or 4 guys sitting around having super hot takes about that. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I get it.
Yeah.
So I'm a little nervous, and we'll figure out how the health of this week works. But I got a lot of rookie receivers going to my championship weekend. I got Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and I have to decide if Gurendo's healthy or Xavier Worthy or DeAndre Swift. Like, who am I starting there is going to be the thing. Otherwise, like I'm pretty confident with the rest. Like I got Neighbors, Sutton, I'm going to play. I mean, Bijan and Brees, got to play them. But my last two flex spots, it's like, so that's going to be something. Be ready to jump on the radar there if it starts with the bat signal. And the other thing too is this week is going to be really screwy because we have Wednesday games, Thursday games, Saturday,
yeah,
Sunday
that's true.
games. Monday is like, oh my gosh, and this is also the last week for Thursday nights. So date night will be back, I guess.
Yeah, who's playing on Wednesday? And like, did they have a bye week last week? Or there's no way you're going from playing Sunday to playing on Wednesday,
early.
Right?
I think that's what they ended up doing. So Kansas City, Pittsburgh played on Wednesday. We'll be playing on Wednesday this week on Christmas Day. Same thing with Baltimore and Houston. So it's those four teams. And then
that played on Friday or whatever.
3 games on Saturday. So in week 16, you had the Chargers and Denver didn't do that. Houston, KC, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Those 4 teams played on the Saturday. So it's like a 6-game week instead of a 7-game week. Or, I'm sorry, 5 instead of a 4, or whatever it ends up being. So Houston, Kansas City will be played each other this week. Houston's going to play one, and then Kansas City's going to play the other between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. So they did a good job of not totally screwing them in that sense of like having 2 short weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm also glad like they're going to have playoff implications. It didn't need to get flexed. Because all 4 of those teams, it's just going to be all about seeding at this point. Houston, KC, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Like they're all going to be in. Well, actually, no, I haven't looked at AFC in a long time. Let's look at the wild card. Baltimore is in for sure, and they're the 5 seed. Chargers and Denver are tied at 9 and 6. They'll probably be the last 2 seeds with Indianapolis, Miami, Cincinnati all at 7-8. Cincy could sneak in the last seed, but they need a lot of help too. So who knows?
I'd like to see Cincy make it. I think the playoffs would be more interesting with the Bengals in it.
Yeah. I do want to see Denver. I think that'll be fun. The Chargers,
they're frisky, sexy, yeah.
But I definitely I want Cincy in over Miami or Indy for sure. Obviously,
absolutely.
If it's for Cincy to make it though, they have to beat out the Chargers or Denver, who have 2 games on them, so they are not mathematically eliminated, but more than likely.
Yeah.
But definitely don't want to see Indy or Miami. Do you think Tyreek's going to get traded? Not to get like totally onto a whole other rant here, but I'm seeing that pop up. And like Tua said, they both need to get more reps in practice. What the fuck? You've been playing together for 3 years now. So I don't really know.
I don't see him getting traded. Just because Mike
said the Kansas City Chiefs, and then they did.
I just think who's the Miami coach? Like I can picture him. I can't think of his name. It is McDaniel, yeah. I just think he had such a boner for Tyreek Hill when they went out to get him. I just don't see him getting traded while McDaniel is still the coach.
It might be McDaniels. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I hear you. I'm just trying to think now. It's like they're so devoid, offensive line and the entire defense, other than Jalen Ramsey, which even he's starting to show signs of regression.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this seems like a, no pun intended, but like a quasi Moneyball. Quasi Moneyball. Crazy Adolfo Mensa and crazy.
Yeah.
Like a Moneyball move. Why not get 2 firsts and a 5th or a 4th or something and, use that for something? Because you've already got Waddle. You've got 4 of the receivers are just Tyreek light, basically, because they're all tiny little speedsters.
I mean, I just don't think you've seen Jalen Waddle prove enough. I mean, maybe if the coach sees something in practice that he thinks Jalen Waddle can be that guy, but I feel like he's always injured and just has not shown enough evidence that he can be the main act.
I really tend to agree with you now that you're saying that. I want to see. I haven't looked at his fantasy all year. I know he's been hurt too. So he's on the season rank in a PPR format. By week side, he's ranked 113. He has 140 fantasy points so far this year. Last year, he had 198. Yeah, well, he's 20 catches off his total last year, so 20 catches 2 games. So he'll be under last year's production. He's only got 2 touchdowns. He's not scoring the ball. But he is projected – who are they playing this week? He's projected 20 points this week.
Crazy.
No, that can't be right.
Well, yeah, it's been like Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane have been 2 of his favorite targets, it seems like, this season.
Apologies. He's projected 22 points for the rest of the year.
Ooh.
which he had 0 this week. That's what fucked with it. Got it. Okay, so I misread that. So yeah, quiet. And that's a guy that I would have in a draft. I would have been fine with him being in a snake, fine with him being my wide receiver 2, or my wide receiver 1 if I got like super running backs. But
Jalen Waddle.
But again, if I went big money like I did in the other league, like so I went Brees and Bijan, and then my next money was my number 1 receiver all year was Neighbors. So I got $14 on a receiver. I'm gonna spend $14 and I get Jalen Waddle. Pretty happy. But if he's a auction guy, I'm only spending $10-15. I'm not gonna spend because like hell yeah, wide receiver 2, Waddle. If you've got running back stack, like let's go. Which brings me to the last point. I'm not trying to snipe you here. I haven't asked out of the leagues because I'm actually in them with fantasy.
All good.
Guys. What's a guy or two right now that is on your short list for next year?
Ooh, that's a good question.
No pressure. There's no wrong answers. And while you think about it, I'll give you one of mine or two before we get into it.
Sure.
I want JSN, and I don't know exactly. Probably wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3. Unless there's some changes. I want James Cook, running back for Buffalo, and the last one I was looking at was what's his nuts, Arizona. I want James Conner again. I had James Conner a couple years. Like he was just always the stalwart. He could be my RB1 if I go heavy other way. Otherwise, he's a sick RB2. He's always undervalued. Like no one's paying your $30-$40 for him. He's always just under that tier. So I think I get him in the mid to high 20s. But I'm not thinking like value for value's sake, but this is a guy I think I can get a steal. Like this year's Derrick Henry. Nobody was willing to overpay for Derrick Henry because it was just new. Same thing with Saquon. People are like, I don't know.
See, those were the 2 running backs I drafted most in underdog. I like both of them.
You were also on Deontay Johnson, who's going to be on his 3rd team this year. But
yeah, okay, that was a little outside of our control.
That's 2 out of 3 though. That's 66% you're shooting there.
That's not bad.
Guys this year. That's pretty good.
Gosh, yeah, I gotta think hard about that.
And that's why I'm stalling giving you some of my names so you can percolate there. It's
honestly,
it's really interesting.
Whoever grabs Ashton Ginty, however you say his name.
Boise State running back.
Boise State
Heisman
guy.
runner-up.
I kind of want him. I just think seems like he's such a good runner.
You're gonna have to pay a rookie premium though. Rookie running backs always get overpaid for.
That's fair. Yeah, it also depends what team he goes to.
Dude, Miami would be so sick.
Yeah,
they wouldn't do it, but like that would be the dirtiest offense for him.
Yeah, I honestly, there's no one besides the obvious ones that I want bad, like Saquon and Jamar Chase, like Joe Burrow, maybe based on how he's playing right now. I had a lot of Joe Burrow this year. I don't know. I feel like there's still too many. Like a lot of my picks are very situational. Like it's based on like their coaching and like what do they do with their O-line and stuff like that. Oh, you know what? I'll say Dave Montgomery. He's been slept on. Criminally.
Like that. Tell me more on that. So you probably can't answer it because I'm sure there's 15 different ways of sunning it. This is going to change, but Devontae Adams is still on the Jets next season, right?
Yeah.
And he's going off like a Roman candle right now. We don't know if Rodgers is going to be there. We know they're going to have a new front office and a new head coach, which means a new offensive coordinator, which means you've got Garrett Wilson, who's been criminally under-targeted. Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, like you have 4 studs on as far as playmakers on that offense. I like it for a value, but it's going to take another couple months of research to understand what the hell is going on with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be one of those guys I wouldn't target, but I wouldn't avoid either. Like, I'd take him if I could get him at a little bit of a value. I'd probably take him at his ADP. Who knows what that's going to be. And by that, I'd say, I'd probably grab him late 2nd, early 3rd is probably where I'm looking for Devontae Adams. He's got the potential, but he's also old. He's got an old quarterback. If either of them gets injured,
might not. Rodgers has not come out and said he's playing.
That's true. So I'd probably look around the 2nd and 3rd round turn.
So what's your stance? I've had a couple of different people in my ear the last 2 or 3 seasons. Strong one way and strong the other. Um, assuming a PPR format, spend money in an auction draft or draft early in a snake draft a quarterback, or do you try and find the value? And I'm saying this is that, well, Lamar's the number one fantasy player in the league, and he's the reason why I'm in the Super Bowl right now for the
Mhm.
fantasy. And then Josh Allen is in most championship teams. So that's 1 and 2. Hurts is another guy that's sneaking in there because all the tush pushes. Unfortunately, he's got
Yeah.
the concussion. That's going to fuck some people. But so do you do that, get your quarterback where you know you're getting 25 a week, or do you diversify your assets as far as earlier draft position or dollars to get a better something number 2 and bolster that way? Where are you at on that mindset?
You
Because
know,
I'm starting to slant. It was always get me the $5 or less quarterback. Now it's like, just give me my 25 points and give me a higher ceiling.
I got burnt on it this year because last year I won my main league with Josh Allen as my quarterback. This year I went value and I drafted a lot of like Kyler Murray and Jordan Love. Jordan Love, I drafted him. I think I might have started him like once or twice this year. By the end of the year, I'm starting Justin Herbert, who I got off of waivers over Jordan Love.
He's not throwing picks.
But also going into the year, I really wanted Patrick Mahomes. I thought Mahomes was going to have a great year for some reason. Luckily enough, I didn't get him. I think next year,
CJ Stroud would have killed a lot of people this year.
I like CJ Stroud. I was lucky to not get him. It's funny how fantasy football works because like a lot of guys that I like and I don't get end up sucking, and it's like, oh well, I only did well because I didn't get the guys that I wanted. Yep. Honestly, I think the only 2 quarterbacks I'm reaching for, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, just because the rushing touchdown potential. Maybe Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels maybe sneaks into like top 3 quarterback conversation. Actually, Lamar. I'm leaving out Lamar. Yeah. Lamar just worries me because he's so like skinny. I'm always worried he's going to get injured.
He's not. He's still the last 2 seasons. Yes, but also he's figured out how to not
avoid getting nailed.
Way.
Yeah.
And the way that his talent and the way his body angles end up being, he never gets hit square and he's never caught compromise. Meaning he's falling forward or falling away where he's not getting his feet stuck where he's bending away.
Yeah.
And so that's underrated. And if you know what you're looking at football, like that's pretty cool to see. And he's a guy again, number 1 in fantasy right now. I lucked into it because I went the same route as you. I went Burrow and Dak in one of my teams, and I got them for under $5 each. I went Kyler, and I got him for like $7. And then I was the one that I got caught with Lamar bidding him up. And so I was like, 10, 12, 14. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. So I unintentionally spent $28 on my quarterback this year. I played Kyler twice. I was on one bye and one other week. And I played Lamar the whole rest of the year. And Lamar wasn't even the plan. I'm shocked because you saw, like to your point, Allen and Hurts went for $25, $30 each. I'm like, whoa. But now that I'm seeing it happen, and then we're talking about my buddy earlier in the episode, is like he always takes Josh Allen. And it's been the last 3 years he's been in the championship round because of him. The rest of his team was just okay.
Yeah.
So I'm really starting to rethink how I go about this whole thing.
Yeah, it's too early for me. I got to do some mock drafts next year and feel it out at that point.
That's the fun of it, having it way too early experience. Like just get the percolating because you're going to want to see who was on the championship rosters in all my leagues. Okay, what's the common thread? What type of team build was it? Old guys? Was it all running backs? Was it all, was it just luck fucking burners? Like, gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I'm getting a call from my wife here, / I just missed a call from my wife. So what do you say we put a bow on this and talk next week?
Sounds great. Merry frickin' Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Try not to waste any time Thursday night watching the Bears. And
I'm sure I'll find some way.
Yeah, no kidding. And then, we'll talk next week, man.
Great. Sounds good. Week 16, Run the North, Jason and Will. See you guys later.
Good stuff.